All right, I'd like to welcome our special guest to this episode of The Hot Seat, Mike Tavares, or Mike T. Michael Tavares has been a professional in the water sports scene since 2003. Whether it's supping or paddling the world's biggest and best river waves or just goofing off with his four-legged sidekick companion, Shredder, it's hard to find somebody who's having more fun on the water. How's it going, Mike?
Oh, great, John. Hey, thanks for having me. Stoked to be here.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming in. It's here on the East Coast. It's 8 p.m. I have a nice glass of wine here.
Ooh, nice. Yeah. Sorry to keep you up so late. I have a beer here. I just off work. It's 6 o'clock. It's time for a beer.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
Well, before we dig into it, share with our audience something that most people don't know about you. What's something that maybe is not quite so discovered about Mike T?
Oh man. I got a good one actually. It's sitting right here next to me. Not a lot of people know that I play the drums actually. Before paddling, it was one of my passions. Probably started playing when I was 12, so about 25, 26 years now. But yeah, I used to play in some bands. Back in my high school, college days, actually played in a Christian rock band, believe it or not.
Hello.
I don't know if you've ever heard. Yeah, it's hilarious. I had a nickname called Mordecai. I had this big old neck beard. Uh, and there's still some pictures floating around, various spots. But that one pops up every now and then. The Badfish crew calls me Mordecai sometimes, and people are like, "Who? What? What are you talking about?" On the speaker at races and whatnot. And, yeah, it's pretty funny. So that's a pretty random one. Not many people know about that one.
That's a good one. Thanks for that. You know what? From now on, dude, you're Mordecai.
I love it. Yeah. I'll show you a picture at some point of my Mordecai days. You'll get a good kick out of it. So.
Well, what kind of music you listening to these days? What's at the top of your playlist?
Oh man, I'm a sucker for the same old stuff, honestly. Lately, man, continuous rotation is Built to Spill, hot water music. I just can't get those out of my playlist. I don't know why. Oddly enough, I found some old LVM videos, and there's a bunch of hot water music in those.
Yep.
If you remember this.
Oh yeah,
so
for
good.
sure.
So good. But actually, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's sick. You're listening to that. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, I love playing it on the drums and stuff. But so I just watched I've never been much of a Deadhead, but I watched a documentary recently on the Grateful Dead on Amazon Prime. I think it was like 6-part series, and I can't get enough Grateful Dead lately too. So it's and then it kind of goes into the bluegrass and all that sort of stuff. And
dude, I'm the same
little
way.
Greta Van Fleet lately. Ooh, those guys are good. But yeah, seriously, every day I get home or on the way to the mountain or whatever I'm been up to this winter, it's just pop on the Dead, and I don't know, it gets you in the right mood, I think.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, let's dig in. Start from the beginning. Before you got into SUP, before you even were ever on a river, before you ever grabbed a one wheel, what were you like as a kid? What was pre-public Mike T all about?
Oh gosh, well, I grew up in Richmond, Virginia. I never paddled. I wasn't really an outdoorsy guy. I didn't even go camping until I think my freshman year of college. I don't think I slept in a tent until college, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, growing up, I was like a team sports kid, played baseball, basketball, that sort of stuff. I found skateboarding at a pretty early age. So that was kind of one of my passions through high school. Just kind of a little skateboard punk rolling around, did that, started snowboarding, but just kind of a suburban kid, really, grew up, had the big friend crews and lots of team sports, and until I got into the skate and snowboard scene. The snowboard scene in Virginia, not much of a snow scene there, but what I could do. So yeah, it was a pretty great suburban upbringing, honestly. A great family, a rather large family actually. So, but yeah, lots of cousins, brother and sister, just big family. So just kind of a good Southern upbringing. So, yeah.
When did you find the river?
I was, oddly enough, being in Richmond, I never found the river until I went to college, even though, Richmond has great whitewater on the James there downtown.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a couple miles from my house. It was in college. I went to Radford University and geography major for a little bit, like environmental studies, and then some of my buddies were in the outdoor rec department, so recreation, parks, and tourism. And there was this elective course that I could do for the summer. It was an outdoor leadership course, and yeah, so it was basically you're kayaking, rafting for a week, climbing, backpacking for 20 days. So I went on that actually as an elective. Uh, Quickly after that, I switched my major to outdoor rec. But during that time, we actually it was all in Colorado, so it was pretty cool. So we spent a week on the Arkansas River, kind of based around Salida. Fort Carson Outdoor Recreation out of Colorado Springs was kind of our river guides. They taught us basics for rafting. Then we did 4 days kayaking. So my first introduction was brand new. I think I was 20. I think I was probably about 20, 21. Did 4 days kayaking on the Arkansas River, and I was hooked. It was crazy. There was 12 people in the course, and I was it's just a class two there. I was the only person that wasn't absolutely terrified of the water and didn't swim like 7 times in 4 miles, and for literally from that point on, my mind just switched because I'd kind of been searching around for a sport that I really loved and I was passionate about. I was hiking, backpacking, climbing, and stuff like that. And once I found kayaking, it was it. That was literally my mind switched, and I was fully focused. So it was pretty cool. And we actually went back into Salida for lunch, and I saw people freestyle kayaking, and that really drew me into. I was hooked as soon as I saw people cartwheeling and looping and all that sort of stuff. I was like, I have to do that. And I went home and got a boat, and that was, just started the process of becoming a whitewater enthusiast. So it was great.
So through that journey, did you have any kind of mentors or anybody who sort of took you under your wing, or were you on your own path?
No, I was lucky. We had a great crew of paddlers in Radford. I'm sure you know a couple of them. There's a guy, Adam Goshorn, lives in northern Alabama. He's kind of the LRC Canyon guy. He lives a couple of miles. I know you've talked with Adam. Yeah. So I hooked up with him. He was an outdoor programmer. He was running. He was a couple years ahead of me, I think, and he kind of took me under his wing, which was awesome. Once I got up to speed, could roll, could paddle some class 2, 3. He started taking me on some excursions, and had a couple other buddies too that were from Virginia Beach that were living there, and we started going up to the Gauley and the New River, and so I had a great crew, which was nice. And then it just kind of snowballed into more paddling and meeting more people like yourself, and but yeah, I always had the role models. I don't even know how many times I watched LVM, Seven Rivers Expeditions, and all that stuff. Godly, it was just on repeat. It was great. So I looked up to all you guys and the icons in the whitewater industry, but I had a great crew at the same time in Radford and Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech was a great place for boaters. A lot of good boaters came out of there, so it was cool.
So at some point you decided to quit sitting and start standing. How did that happen? I mean, you were an early adopter in SUP. How did all that happen?
Yeah. It was really strange and kind of just one of the moments that happens. At the time I'd been doing, I think I was probably on my 4th or 5th summer in Salida, teaching kayaking for RMOC, doing a little raft guiding, stuff like that in the summer. And I was just down at the play hole every day after work till it got dark, just surfing around, having a good time. And, I was never good. I was an okay surfer growing up, surfing Virginia Beach and stuff. And I never got a ton of exposure to that, but always was drawn to it from the other board sports I did. And it was odd. So I was down there kayaking a lot, and Zach Hughes and Mike Harvey, who are the owners of Badfish SUP and good friends of mine now, they were literally just down there testing boards. I remember seeing Zach, and wetsuit, all black. He's always got the full black get up on, and just really focused. And he was just testing all these prototypes. I found out later, handmade stuff, because he was kind of transitioning from kayaking into something else. And he grew up in San Diego, so he always had these boards down there. And I didn't really know him very well, but I would always just kind of watch him. And one day I just got the guts to go up to him and, hey, can I try that? And they're like, yeah, sure, why not? And it was actually their first SUP that they made for the river, because they were making little short boards, but as you know, the waves in Salida, they're not too powerful. They don't really have a whole lot of push to them. So a SUP actually works really well there. So yeah, I just, he let me borrow it for a couple days, and I started surfing the lower wave and light after work, and I remember the very first time that I got up on a river wave on an SUP, and it just kind of clicked. It was like one of those flow moments, where time kind of slows down. All your body's moving at the right speed, and everything's just kind of happening. Something just clicks in your mind, and you're just totally enthralled with what's happening around you. So that was that moment for me, and I just kind of went with it from there. Same thing that I did with kayaking early on. I just every moment that I wasn't working or doing something else, I had to be paddling, and the whitewater was kind of the niche for me, because I felt like the two meshed very well together for me, which whitewater stuff's not an easy thing. So for a lot of people, it's very disorienting and hard, but it all came together in my mind and my body and my footwork and my paddle work too, which was very helpful for kayaking. So yeah,
and being able to read the river.
Oh, yeah. So when you put all those together, it's God, it was just like I think about that moment a lot actually, because I'm like, gosh, it was just one of those monumental moments in life where everything just kind of feels right. It comes together, and yeah, it's just it's a cool moment. So yeah, that was how it happened. Just lucky to meet those guys, and they happened to be testing out some boards, and I was actually the first person that ever tried their board besides Mike and Zach, the founders of Badfish. So that was kind of cool. So I was able to kind of work with those guys with the boards and just the whole experience from the very beginning, which was cool. So
killer.
Yeah. And there's a lot of other people too at the same time. Gavir was out there, Hobie, and some other folks in Colorado that I've been watching, and I knew Gavir from kayaking, and I was just like, yeah, that looks really fun. And I kind of looked up to them, and then, so yeah, it all kind of sparked at the same time, which was cool.
That's so cool. So when you were at that point in your career, what year was that?
I think that was like 2010, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. So about 8 years ago or so, 7 or 8 years ago. Yeah.
So since 2010, I've been following some of your exploits and whatnot, and at some point you started doing these overnight or these self-support SUP trips. What's that all about?
Gosh, ever since I started kayaking, I've been drawn to overnights and kayaks, and it's very similar. I'm sure the reason why you like them. It kind of gets at the core of, for me, it gets at the core of why I'm drawn to the water. Being on the water for multiple days and living on your own, out of your boat or your board, being completely surrounded by the river environment and the mountains or wherever you happen to be. It just kind of brings everything together for me. And yeah, it's ever since I started, I feel like more days I can spend in the waters, the better. And then, if you can link up those days into an experience, I think it just gets really to the root of why you want to be on the water and what really makes me thrive as a paddler, so it's full immersion, I guess.
No, I that resonates loud and clear. What's your favorite paddleboard overnighter?
Like as far as the trip that I've done?
Yeah, just what's your favorite adventure you've been on multi-day?
Oh, geez. So far on a paddleboard, well, like the beauty of the paddleboard overnight too is it makes things fun that per se wouldn't be so fun in a kayak and overnight. Like lots of flat water, easier things to do. But yeah, we've done some really cool ones out west. I got a bunch more lined up for this year, but I would say so far, favorite one. Gosh, we just did a really cool one on the Colorado. I'll tell you about that in a second. But I would say the best one so far has been the San Juan into Lake Powell. So we did the San Juan into the San Juan arm of Lake Powell, and then we paddled pretty much about 90% of the lake down to the dam, Glen Canyon, and then back up to Bullfrog Marina. So it was cool because it actually, the San Juan section, I'm sure you're familiar with that. It's pretty easy, straightforward, just classic desert whitewater, beautiful sandstone canyons. You're out there. You see a couple folks, but it's pretty, and then you get into, and it's a natural feeling to the river. Obviously, it's a natural river, but then it ends, it pretty much dies into Lake Powell. So you get to see kind of the natural side and then the man-made side and, the reasons of why we all don't like dams. And it had a lot of different aspects to that trip. So that was pretty cool. And then you're on Lake Powell for 5 days paddling flat water. So that's, a completely unique experience if you've ever been out there. It's not a place that people use human propelled boards or anything really. It's just it's full motorhead city.
Oh yeah.
So we got the both sides of the equation there, and it was really a beautiful trip. Um, so yeah, stuff like that, which on a paddleboard's cool to see. It just kind of opens your eyes to different dynamics that's going on around you, and the whole Lake Powell thing with Colorado. That was kind of a huge eye opener to actually paddle Lake Powell and see what's going on and talk to people and see the San Juan and how it dead ends into the river, or into the lake. Sorry, that was quite the unique experience too. And no one actually goes below. Well, people do, but there's actually an altered riverbed below the takeout in Clay Hills for the San Juan into Lake Powell, and all the sediment that's been piled up there has shifted the riverbed into. There's actually like a 20 to 30 foot waterfall, depending on water levels and how it shifts over this big sandy ledge. And that was never there before the lake was there. And then you go into this crazy, almost like 80 to 100 mile dead zone where no one goes in between the river and the reservoir. So it's this crazy.
Is it like mud banks in that section?
Oh, super muddy banks. Yeah. A little bit of revegetation and some sandbars. The river's starting to, reclaim the natural channel. But, the last 40, 50 miles is the most horrendous mud flats I've ever seen. You fall off, and you could, like the ranger was telling us not to go, because she's like, you can go over your head into muddy flats and stuff like that. And we're like, oh yeah, okay. Didn't really believe her. But it was
classic.
Muddy as just flats and just kind of a wasteland. So yeah, it was wild to see. But yeah, so that was a cool trip.
How many miles a day were you doing when you were on the San Juan?
We weren't that many. We were doing, I think we averaged about 35. So not a ton.
Those are big days, though. I mean, those are like 6-hour days, huh?
Yeah. I mean, big days, if you're Lincoln, I think we did 8 of those in a row. So that was pretty good. And we actually took fiberglass boards on that trip. Big 14 foot boards that Zach had made. So we did have to portage a couple of those really shallow, chunky rapids. So that took up some time too. But yeah, I'd say even all the other trips, it's kind of a 30, 35 mile average day trip for the paddleboard stuff that we've been doing. So pretty good. So it's like doing 5 Chattahoochee or 10 Chattahoochees back to back.
Oh yeah, I definitely. I know exactly. I know. I can.
The feeling.
I can picture it. That's an epic. So, did you jump on any houseboats when you got to the lake, or did you paddle the whole way?
I did set foot on one houseboat, and I got a chicken wing and a beer. It was almost forced. Like they would not leave us alone. It was hilarious. But yeah, we got invited to so many houseboat parties. It was hilarious. But we're like, no, I mean, we thought about it for a second. We were kind of, kind of take from the experience, depending on what you're trying to get, but it was fun. Yeah. You meet so many cool people out there in boats. It just kind of opens their eyes too to what we were doing on the lake and the flat water. And they're like thinking about it. You can tell it's processing in their mind, and they're like, that's different. And they kind of get it. They're like, would you like a beer, or what are you doing? You need a place to stay? We're like, no, we're fine.
That's classic.
Yeah, those are trips. We did another cool one in November that was a very similar. It was a very untraveled section of the Colorado for kayaks or paddleboards. We did Hoover Dam to Parker Dam, actually below Havasu. So that was kind of an interesting. All flat water, going through a couple reservoirs, and but yeah, it was a beautiful area.
So are you portaging when you get to the reservoirs, or they have locks and dams, or how?
We had to portage Davis Dam, which is right above a big casino town, which was quite interesting as well, on the Colorado River. Yeah, we had to walk around that. We did like a 2-mile walk because it's all shut down around there, for security. But so it wasn't too bad. But yeah, it was quite an epic portage for sure.
What do you mean security?
Oh, just at the dams, the big. The whole power plants and the dams, you could get up pretty close to it on the water, but then you couldn't access around it. You had to kind of hike up over the hills and use some little dirt roads to get down to the base of the dam. So, but yeah, that was a cool one.
So you've been doing this for a long time. Certainly probably had some ups and downs throughout your career.
Yep.
What what was the point? What was your lowest point? What was the point you're like, you know what? I need to do something different. I need to get a different job. I need to. This is not, the direction I need to be going. Was it a moment when you were stranded out somewhere? Was it a big loss at a competition? What would be your lowest point of your career?
That's a good question. I'm pretty fortunate. I haven't had too many low points, but I will say, I would say, I guess the most soul-searching lowest point so far in the career would be, um, I did go through a couple kind of job changes. I did work for company Boardworks for a long time. Managing their team, doing events, and I mean, I was on the road for 7 or 8 months a year, which was great. It was one of the best jobs I've ever had in my life. And as most companies do, they get bought and sold and stuff like that. And I went through a couple rounds of little corporate buyouts with that company, and couple turnovers and people working there. And that was just kind of a soul searching moment for me, I would say, where I went to full time working in the paddleboard industry, to kind of part time, and then just as a team paddler, and then a part time team paddler through all the shifts and marketing and
Yep.
budgeting and all that sort of stuff, which has happened with a lot of companies out there. It's a tough industry. But I would say that was probably the toughest moment because, it kind of kicked my butt into thinking, is this the right path? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? I went from full time, as a paddler making money, to kind of part time, and then searching for other things to do. And after paddling for 10 years and kind of the road, I'm like, oh man, what have I been doing? Where am I going? How am I going to support myself for the next 40, 50 years and stuff like that? But it actually, in retrospect, after a little downtime, it actually did really good things for me. I think it kind of broadened my horizons as far as what I should do with my career path and other ways to make money. And I think what it did as well is it kind of brought to my attention that if I'm doing other things in life as well as paddling, that paddling can be more fulfilling if it's not full time, year round. So, and it actually brought me back to my whitewater roots, which was great too, because I was kind of at the ocean a lot and doing other things and kind of traveling around, not paddling as much whitewater as I previously had when I first started in kayaking and then starting in SUP. So, yeah, it's great. Now when I'm paddling, I'm primarily paddling whitewater, which is great. And it's a little more fun too. I feel like I have a little bit more freedom with my paddling if it's not my 100, time consuming job as a paddler. So it's kind of some avenues. It's great. Yeah. So it was kind of a downtime, but it also, kind of brought it around, and I think it's been a better shift overall. So for me as a paddler and just me as, just a individual, it's opened my eyes to the broader scope of life, I would say.
Yeah.
So not pigeonholed 100% into paddling all the time and just feeling like I had to be paddling all the time, which, it's not a bad thing, but it kind of wears on you, I think, or wore on me after 5 or 6 years of doing that 100% of the time. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You managed to turn lemons into lemonade. What about
yeah, that's how life rolls. It's
what
always something.
what about the top? What's your favorite moment? What's your proudest achievement, or what to this point? What are you proud of?
Oh man. You know, geez, there's a lot of good moments in paddling and racing, but what I've learned is, I think for me, the most memorable moments have been either teaching people or showing them the river. I've done a lot of instruction, and I still do quite a bit of instruction over the summertime, mostly in the Rockies, surrounding all the events and whatnot. And I honestly think that the most memorable moments are getting people to surf for the first time, or opening their eyes to the river. Actually, oh, this is a great one. Hold on, I got to plug in my computer. It's beeping at me. It's about to die.
I love it. Yeah, go
Let's
for
see.
it. So I don't
You know,
know,
honestly,
listeners. I got to let you know we are in Mike T's gear closet right now as we are
that's
doing this
right.
interview, and it is such a rad scene. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, random fact: these all my gear closet shelves were actually reclaimed wood from the OR show. You know how trade shows, gosh, there's so much stuff. People go in, they build a booth, and then they just chuck it, And Gina, my partner, and I always go around. It was easier when it was in Salt Lake, but even in Denver, we're heading out there next week, and we come back with so much good stuff. Wood, and I've built so many things in my house with all the reclaimed wood.
Dude, there's a value bomb for you right there if you're listening to the show. Reclaim some stuff from OR.
Yeah,
or from
yeah. This was from the one. This was actually from the One Wheel booth too. It's pretty funny. Tons of good woods. They were stoked to have to go to waste. Oh yeah. So here's an example of of a memorable moment. So Bodie Harrison.
Oh yeah.
Just amazing paddler, amazing one wheeler. Just a great all-around guy. Any board he gets on, he's just destroying, as you've seen firsthand. So he actually showed up, him and his dad. His dad's an amazing paddler as well, Rich, great dude. So they showed up to Paddlefest, CKS Paddlefest in Colorado in Buena Vista, and I was doing a little river surfing lesson. It was freezing cold. It was snowing that year, and these guys they lived in the Front Range, and he said they just happened to be driving around. They saw a sign for a paddling fest. They're like, I have no idea what that is. Let's just drive to the river, check it out. So they're wandering around, wearing I think they were wearing shorts and, just wandering up. And they're like, hey, we want to learn how to do this. Like, we just saw someone surfing up there in that river wave. And I've been to the ocean a couple times. We're skaters, we're snowboarders. We want to do that now. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, I have this river surfing clinic coming up here in an hour. Maybe go to the store, get some wetsuits, come back. I'll get you rolling, teach you how to river surf. Never seen whitewater, stuff like that. So I get them out there, and they're just having the time of their lives. I'm teaching them how to read water, how to swim in whitewater, introduce them to the board, how to get into river waves as opposed to ocean stuff that they've done. And by the end, they were hooked, like fully hooked. They went and bought boards.
So cool.
We had to end early because they literally, I think it was like, how cold the water is in Colorado. And gosh, they had rented Farmer John's with splash tops, and we were swimming for hours, and I felt so bad for them. But they're hooked, and now they're both amazing paddlers, and so it's moments like that, that I think I get the most out of, just seeing the progression, being able to pass something on, because obviously can't paddle forever, but yeah, being able to pass things on to other generations. And, be able to spark moments like that and just motivate other people, or just keep the conversation going, I think that's what it's all about. So, yeah.
I love that. I have had that same sense of accomplishment before teaching somebody something. It's amazing that when you see that energy infect them, it has a lasting impact on you.
Oh, it does. It energizes me. It gets me more excited about what I'm doing and involving other people, and it just keeps that feeling going, it just gets that karmic, down the line. And, if what are we in it if we're not for just to get more people into it and, spread the love and spread the excitement and, grow the sport, so yeah.
More people to shred with.
Exactly. Yeah. And fortunately, the river's not overcrowded like the ocean, so we could always use more people, So that's great.
Through the course of these interviews, I've noticed that a lot of top-tier athletes in various fields, a lot of them are multi-sport. And it's interesting how this trend comes up. And the more research I do on it, it shows even, Division I college football teams and whatever, a lot of the coaching staff and recruiting people, even up to the pro level, I'm talking big sports like NBA and NFL, one of the first questions the recruiters will ask are what other sports you're into, because it gives you a better dynamic and awareness. What other sports are you into, and do you see that as crossing over and allowing you to have, maybe a better understanding of gravity, a different level of creativity? What are your thoughts on that subject?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I feel like being a more well-rounded athlete and just being aware of your body and moving it in different ways. And for example, I was actually a snowboarder before I was a paddler, so I did take about 5 years off from snowboarding when I was paddling, 9, 10, 11 months out of the year. But so I've gotten back into that. I've been living in Salt Lake City, as you know. So
epic snows this year.
Oh gosh, I know. My roommate's just heading out to Jackson right now. I took off a couple days of work last week, this week. Yeah, it's so good. We had a 22-inch day on Tuesday morning. It was unbelievable. So
Sorry to interrupt. I've just been following some friends out there and you, and
yeah, yeah.
looks like you've been fully getting the
It's been
shred on.
good, and it comes full circle. A good winter, as you know, it just means a good paddling season for us a little earlier, and just a little more water, a little more, just opens the doors huge out west. So, and for water for living too. I mean, we're hurting out here for water, so it's good for the planet in general. But yeah, I think being a multi-sport athlete is good. I feel like when I switch gears, say to snowboard or even one wheeling, or I get on the bike a couple times. It kind of trains different muscle groups, and I feel like it just your body just talks to itself a little bit better, and then you get back. I feel a little bit more refreshed when I do get back on the board, and obviously just stronger in general. But yeah, it's a huge part. I think just getting my mind out of paddling for a little bit too, and not thinking about it as much, and say working on my flow when I'm snowboarding or skateboarding and one wheeling and stuff like that. Actually, a lot of the same body mechanics I try to transfer into my other sports as well. So yeah, it's so helpful for me, honestly.
A second ago, you were talking about how you basically walked away from your snowboard for like 5 years. When you went back to it,
Yeah.
was it sort of you didn't miss a beat, or did you feel like you even had levels of progression, or what was that feeling like?
I feel like yeah, it took me a little bit, but honestly, I don't think I missed a beat, because all the board sports that I'd been doing were very similar, as far as, footwork and body work and body mechanics and rotating and, spotting with your eyes and stuff like that. So it literally came right back to me, which was great because I did spend about 5 winters in Colorado and Idaho pretty heavy into snowboarding too at the same time while I was kayaking and supping. So they were all kind of intertwined, but yeah, I took some time off and um, it got me a little more excited when I did get back into it. But yeah, it was kind of like it was weird, cliche, like riding a bike. I just jumped right back into it.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty cool. So
Mm-hmm.
that muscle memory was still there, oddly enough, after 5 years. So
So narrowing in on your SUP career as you got better, you were surfing more waves, you weren't blowing your line to get on them, and you were just being more efficient,
right.
standing up through bigger rapids. Was there ever an aha moment or a point where you had a breakthrough in your paddling that you can remember?
Hmm.
And if so, how do you think you got there?
Well, let's see. I would say break. I've definitely had a bunch of breakthrough moments. Most of those would probably, honestly, I think it comes from racing. A lot of my breakthrough moments.
Dude, that's exactly the same thing that I've experienced. I had
Really?
when I really
Yeah.
started getting into racing and putting some time
Uh-huh.
into getting fit.
Hmm.
That's interesting. Is there one example that sticks out?
Um, there's certainly a couple races. Like I would say for one, the GoPro games, that downriver sprint is such a short. It's a 4 mile sprint, but there's so many things at play. There's so many factors. You're reading the water, you're dealing with high altitude sprinting. Your heart rate is just skyrocketing. Honestly, I think that was one of the first times that I'd figured out. I feel like I'd gotten into the flow state during racing, where everything just kind of melts away. You're so focused that stuff is happening. It's split seconds, fractions of a second. Everything's just coming together, and you almost feel invincible in that flow state. And I'd been as a paddler for a long time. I've felt that before, but I'd read books about it and talked to other people about it, and I don't think I'd ever really experienced it quite like during racing or surfing or something like that. But yeah, that was probably it. Um, and for me too, I think what helped was not getting too heady, not thinking about it too much, just focusing on your lines, your speed, your breathing, and what all the basics, that I've built up over the years in reading whitewater and paddling whitewater. So yeah, that was probably one of those moments. I remember it vividly. It's like one of the best flow states I feel like I've ever been into. So, and then just going from there, I think you can build on that. Um, in all my paddling, surfing, downriver, whatnot, just relaxing and focusing on the tasks at hand. I find myself having more fun getting into that state of just pure bliss on the water more often, after, yeah, after that racing experience. And it helped to push myself, because I was never I was motivated to learn and become a better paddler, but I was never motivated to be into competitions and that sort of stuff. I'm a very laid back paddler, and yeah, more self-motivated, and instead of being motivated by other people around me on the river. But I think racing really helped me kind of fine tune my skills and that sort of stuff, mindset on the river.
What about your diet? Do you have any diet trends? I know I talk to a lot of people, and people have a lot of athletes have some people just eat straight up, eat whatever I want, and other people have some pretty eccentric diets. Do you subscribe to any of that?
No, I've been meaning to over the years, and I do. Man, my partner Gina gives me so much flack for what I eat. It's hilarious. But yeah, I've been so lucky. I definitely I try to eat healthy and not too. I used to be just full on fast food. I was a road warrior for 8 years, and living in the RV on the road. It was hard to eat right. Honestly,
Yeah.
expensive and hard on the road. It's when you're traveling, you don't want to spend the time to cook and all that sort of stuff. So I had pretty bad eating habits, honestly, and I've just been fortunate. I've always been so active to burn it off. But I would say as I get older, it's a little bit harder. So. Last year, I think the first time I implemented a little bit stricter diet when I was racing all the whitewater races over the summer. But it kind of just turned into not really drinking any beer, and just and staying really hydrated, maybe a little bit of protein, a little bit of, making some smoothies before races. But yeah, no, I can't say that I have a good healthy eating habit. I can't. I'd be lying. My all my friends would hound me if I said I had some strict diet. So.
If there was a young paddler who came up to you and he said, "Hey, what advice could you give me so I could make it to the top tier of this sport?" What advice would you give?
Gosh, honestly, it's pretty simple. I feel like just follow your passion for one. I mean, paddle as much as you can. Learn from other people. Um, I would say what really helped me was not really focusing on becoming a career, because I feel like if you focus on paddling becoming a career, or getting any monetary value out of it or something like that, or it kind of takes away from the core of the sport, and it can take away from your skill progression in some sense. I would just say paddle as much as you can. What I found, like my first 4 or 5 years of paddling, all I did was just go out there and paddle and pick one thing and work on it over and over, do it 1,000 times, until it came second nature. So I didn't even think about anything. I didn't think about it becoming part of my life or part of my career. I just went out there and did what I loved.
Yeah,
So
that's a common trend amongst these
yeah,
interviews is just go out and shred as much as you can.
yeah, it's yeah, because life's short. You never know what's going to happen. And I mean, honestly, the most, well, I guess one other thing too, it's like, uh, especially in the paddling world, like the SUP and the ocean and the sup world, I think people get a little too caught up in what's cool and what's not. And, um, especially in the surfing, the short boards, and there's like people wearing this and not wearing this, and there's kind of these divisions. It's kind of rolling over from a more of a surf attitude out there. But gosh, it comes back to the basics. Like whoever's having the most fun on the river is winning 100% of the time. So I get laughed off the river all the time. I love it. Like it's so fun to me. I love it. I'm always the dude river surfing with PFD, the helmet, the shoes, the dry suit, the leash, and everyone's looking at me sideways, and I'm like, I'm just having a ball. So, that's what it's all about. It's about having fun. And, you go out there and you're just, giving it your all, having the blast. People recognize that. People will start to look up to that, and people realize why you might do these things differently and why it might be a better way or, a safer way per se. So yeah, you know, just having fun.
On our pre-show, I kind of commented that it's a big deal if you're a basketball player and get your own sneaker. It's a big deal if you're a skateboarder and you get your own deck. You're a paddleboarder and you have your own board. So somewhere along the line, you did something right as far as sponsorship and that kind of thing. If you're young and you're looking to get sponsors, what how did you pull that off?
Gosh, it kind of pulls into what I was just saying earlier. It was just a lot of hard work and time, honestly. Um, just a lot of hours on the river. A lot of giving back to the community, a lot of doing events, like teaching classes, showing up to races, just being there with the community and having fun. I think went a long way. And then, honestly, it just came down to a little bit of the right timing at the right place. And then it's being paddling for so long, you're constantly trying to design new boards, and there was a need for some new designs too. And knowing the Badfish guys, we've just been working on these concepts, and every time we're out on the river, we're always talking about new board designs. And after 7 or 8 years, it just kind of culminated. They're like, "Hey, it's time. We need to make this board. We've been talking about it for a couple of years. We've always been paddling. We haven't been paddling what we want under our feet on the river." So yeah, it was just one of those glorious moments of years of hard work and designing and thinking about it and just putting in the time and effort. So yeah, I'm so grateful. And yeah, it's good to paddle a board that actually works really well in the river. There's a lot out there, but we're really stoked on that board design. So yeah, it's fun.
The river shred is
Simple too.
yeah, yeah. The river shred's top notch on the river. So
Thanks, Ed. Yeah.
you were, like I said earlier, you were kind of an early adopter in this SUP, especially
Mm-hmm.
inland. What have you seen over your course? You mentioned earlier about the ups and downs, the buyouts. What have you seen
Mm-hmm.
happen with the sport? And after that, where do you think it'll be in the next 5 years?
Yeah, geez. That's a complicated one, but yeah, it's been crazy. I was lucky enough to get there early, and just be a part of it. I was never trying to be a part of the industry at the beginning, but yeah, I just exponential growth. Like every year, sales were double. We're going like 40 and 50% growth for everybody. Didn't matter if you were a big company, a little mom and pop, and sold 20 boards a year. It was just crazy. So. Um, honestly, I feel like the industry is pretty healthy now. I feel like it's leveling out a little bit as far as the number of brands and the number of boards that are out there. And everybody that's stuck through, I would say like the hard times of sales dropping, a little bit of financial drop for paddleboarding. I think they're better off for it because I think the designs have gotten better. Everybody's kind of called down all the boards we don't need. The processes of making boards have gotten better. Technology's gotten a little bit better. And what I've found is that everybody's got their little niche now, whether it's whitewater, ocean surfing, racing, flat water. I feel like the people that made the best boards in those areas have prevailed. And they're still there. They're still making amazing products, and they're going to continue to grow. For example, like the whitewater scene in Colorado and out west, like the whole Intermountain West and Asheville, as like so many more people are paddleboarding on the river and just the flat water there through the French Broad town. So those little niches are going to continue to grow, and I think it's a healthy industry. It's I think the hard part is that all the companies aren't seeing that huge monetary growth like they were before, but have to kind of settle down, rethink some things. It's still growing. It's just not that exponential. People just aren't jumping in and getting a piece of the pie like they wanted to at the beginning. So I think it's healthier overall for the industry. But yeah, it's tough, and it's still growing. I think it's just people aren't seeing it grow like it was. So maybe in most people's eyes, it's just not quite as cool or not quite as blowing up as it used to be. But yeah, I think it's going to keep going, I mean, we're seeing, just from a river standpoint, it's, gosh, last year, like 2 years ago, Paddle Fest maybe had 4 or 5 people in a river surfing class. Last year we had 20, and all the classes were selling out, and people are just, they're going for it, and it's great because they're in a place where they're landlocked and they don't get to paddle, and they're starting to see this opportunity. So the new generations are seeing it, and yeah, it's going to keep going. People are asking for more clinics, and people are asking for more boards and more races and stuff in certain areas. Like ocean and racing and certain scenes has dropped off, but it's kind of filled in other pockets, I feel like.
Well, one thing I've noticed is that there may not be the explosive growth of people buying a board to put on their dock and to paddle around,
Right.
or whatever. But the passion people, the people getting into surfing, or the people doing their first graveyard at Carolina Cup, that's healthy and
Right.
strong. So
Oh, it's so healthy.
to me that's a sign of a maybe not unsustainable growth, but a maturing sport that has a
Oh yeah.
legit foundation. So
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You can take the Chattajack race in Chattanooga. That's as a great example. I mean, that's a mind blower for the racing, paddleboard racing. It's sold out. I think it's like 650 people last year signed up. It's sold out in 8 hours, which is unheard of for a paddleboard race. But it's such a strong community, like you were saying. So it's out there, and that's just beginners all the way up to advanced paddlers in that race. So it's everybody. It's cool.
Yeah. There's a core nebulous that's not going away. I agree with you
Oh
there.
yeah. Yeah.
What are you up to? What's your plans? It's the start of the new year, 2019. What are you up to? What can we look forward to from Mike T this year?
That's a good question. I'd say I'm laying low for a little bit, just trying to, I've been working some construction. Actually, it's been really fun doing a lot of finish work. So, trying to hammer out some work over the next few months so I can free up some paddling time in the spring for some trips. One thing that I'm going to really try to get into this year, like we talked about, some more self-supports, a couple places that people haven't done self-supports, or maybe just in like a different way on an SUP. One thing that's really cool, I think you'll find interesting, is we've got this new inflatable surfboard. You've probably seen it.
Oh yeah,
I
this
know
thing's cool.
Justin at Southern Raft Supply has a couple. They're starting to pop up in Asheville, and which is awesome. But I'm going to take that on some self-support trips this year. I mean, it rolls up so small. It's probably maybe 8 to 10 pounds, pretty light, so I can strap it on the back of the board. I really want to get to some places that, and not just to surf waves, just to say I've been the first to surf, but just get to inaccessible places via paddleboard or kayak. I'm actually thinking about strapping it to the back of kayak to do some harder whitewater and find some waves. But yeah, just stuff like that, finding some new waves that aren't accessible via, roadside or something like that. Just kind of opening some doors to different places to paddle. Really excited about, actually there's the longest race in Japan. Some of our buddies in Japan are putting on this race called the T80, and it's 80 kilometers or 50-mile race. My buddy Bradley Hilton did it. I don't know if you've met Bradley, but he's a badfish paddler, really good guy. And it starts in the mountains with class 2-3 whitewater and finishes in the bay just past Tokyo. So
Nice.
really cool race. That could be, they're trying to grow that quite like Chattajack. It's just but it's cool because it starts with the river and then go through Tokyo and then out to the bay. So something like that. But yeah, just trying to get, just do a little bit more traveling with paddling. I've been kind of, doing the same old things, which nothing wrong with it. I'll do the same old events, and I love the events, the river surfing and the paddling and the racing events, do that. But I'd really like to get out and do some more adventure stuff. So, which will probably be some self-supports. Yeah, I got a couple up my sleeve, but trying to get some people. Yeah, there's a couple. Gosh, there's some that I just can't get anybody to go in because they're just so hellish and brutal, which is funny. I've got one buddy who told me he would never ever go on a flatwater paddling expedition with me again, which is hilarious. Because I don't know what it is. In a kayak, I wasn't so drawn to the flatwater, but in a sup, I can pound out flatwater for days, and it's somehow enjoyable. But
Well, for our
yeah,
listeners who aren't quite up to speed on the river surfer that Mike is talking about, Badfish makes a super short inflatable that packs down really small that you can have your long 14-foot board, your expedition board or kayak or whatever, and you can stuff this little boat, and if you find a good wave, it basically inflates to a fairly high performance surfboard.
Yeah, yeah, it's the most high performance that I've ever set foot on as far as an inflatable surfboard. Yeah, people have tried to do it, but the technology has gotten better. They're stiffer, they're lighter, and they're pretty snappy for a little inflatable surfboard. So perfect. So
super functional for the river.
Oh yeah, it's so
I mean,
nice.
I can see people just like loading 6 people up on a raft and taking 2 of those things and just going down a river and just sessioning the whole way down. Just setting up your camp where you can session
Oh,
like that.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. That's crossed my mind so many times. I was trying to get out to the Golly to do a little trip like that actually this year, a little lower Golly or even upper, in a little raft and hop out, surf diagonal ledges for a couple hours, cruise
Man,
down. So yeah, it kind of opens up so many doors which you don't think about. It's
you,
cool.
it would be hard for you to hit. I mean, not this year. It wouldn't be hard to hit because it's been running high water the whole year. But it would be great to get out on the Nolichucky at 4 or 5,000 CFS with one of those things.
I know.
I mean, there's a half dozen waves, like 6 or 8 waves that you'd be torqued the whole time.
Oh, I know. I was drooling over your videos of high water knowledge, Chucky. Oh gosh, last time I saw him, I was like, oh gosh, I wish I was there. So
Well,
good.
well,
So good.
where can our listeners follow you at? What's your favorite digital communication platform of choice?
Lately it's been a little more Instagram, I would say, just at River Shred. So yeah, at River Shred, or my website has a little bit of info. Tend
What's
to not
that
update my
URL?
web. It's just rivershred.com.
Rivershred.com.
Yeah, so and I actually got a bunch of videos up there that I did last year, a bunch of paddling instructional videos, which people really like. Just a little bit of everything. So from basics to advanced SUP. So it's all free. Get it out there, get more people on the river, which is great. So, but yeah, that's about it. River Shred and a little bit on the Facebook, but I don't know. Sometimes I've been taking a little dive from the social media over the winter, and then it kind of ramps back up in paddling season, as I'm traveling a little bit more. But it's always good to take a little breather from that stuff from time to time for
Yeah.
myself. But yeah. So well, I got one more thing too. I'm thinking so I'm planning a weekend paddling instructional weekend actually in BV this year. So you're familiar with Jed Selby, obviously,
Oh yeah.
that development that he did in Buena Vista at the
Yeah.
Surf Hotel. If you haven't been there, it's unbelievable. Just beautiful building, hotel and bar and restaurants right beside the river park there. Couple waves, really great place to learn how to downriver paddle. So I'm putting together a paddling weekend. It's going to be called Camp Shred. Probably, I think it's going to be first weekend of June. So anybody that's interested, you can look for that. Probably be up on the website in the next couple weeks. So yeah,
Love that. Go to
pretty cool.
rivershred.com and check that out. Is it a 2-day camp, 3-day camp, 1 week
Yeah,
camp?
it's
What are
just
you
going to be
thinking?
2 days. Yeah, it's going to be a weekend. It's a lot easier logistically for people. But yeah, it's going to be one day of river surfing and then one day of downriver instruction. So a little bit
Nice.
everything, basics. And that's a great venue because you have, really good little boulder gardens, flat water, class 2, 3 rapids. So it's all right there and it's walkable, which is a really cool environment to be in. You don't have to drive shuttle. You can just, right there. You got the hotel right next to you. It's just a beautiful place too. It's cool what they've done to that area. So
Well, go to rivershred.com, learn from the best, find a mentor, which is so important in any sport that you want to excel at. How about some shout outs to some of your sponsors? Is there anybody you'd like to give a big thank you to?
yeah, yeah. Well, of course, Badfish, Badfish SUP. Great supporters over the years. Really been influential in my paddling course. Couldn't have done without them. And then, all the gear sponsors too. Great. Astral, obviously, those guys supplying me with great protection over the years, the footwear, PFDs, shred ready helmets. Like I said earlier, I'm always the dude wearing the helmet and the PFD. So, and the footwear, but I'm always riding high in the water when I'm swimming, which is great. And then, I honestly, I just picked up a cool, a new dry suit. These guys he's out of Portugal actually now. He moved to Portugal, but it's called Supskin, and it's like the lightest. You've probably seen some folks wearing it, but it's like a super lightweight dry suit. So really stretchy, made for sup. Feels like you're just wearing, jacket and pants. It's really cool. So those guys have been great to me. And Werner paddles too. I've been loving the new Werners, and gosh, I'm so abusive on my gear. I'm sure you are too. But it's so nice to have something you can just wrench on in the river, So those, yeah, indestructible. I love it. So, but yeah, that's about it.
Well, thanks for coming on the show after your day at work, Mike. And man, value bombs galore. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, yeah. It was great talking to you as always. Hopefully, we get to paddle and hang out together soon.
All right. Well, anyway, yeah, Mike T on the hot seat, and we will see you on the river, bud.
All right. Thanks, John.